and defending transparency and accountability, including the right to information and access to information for the citizens. My presentation would focus what the TI kind of globally is doing, but also with the specific reference of the what responses are done at the local level in Mongolia. As you may all know, what we have realized very much is that the freedom to express one's opinion and freedom of speech, it's closely interlinked with the right to information. I mean, these are actually the two sides of the same coin. I mean, without freedom of expression, you cannot have a kind of a right to information, and without exercising your right to information, you cannot have a freedom of expression in speech. And that's why in Mongolia, and also from the global experience and practice of the Transparency International, what we have realized is that the information which is asymmetric, meaning if there's no let's say balancing of what kind of information available and what's on one hand, and on the other hand, if you don't have access to that kind of information, this leads to the kind of a closed governance, a very closed government in any society, and this leads actually directly to the more corruption, nepotism, waste of public funds, and ultimately it violates the human rights of the people, their rights to be included, to their right to participate, especially at the public policy making level, and also to the basically the implementation process. So what has been the Mongolia experience, how to make this information more, let's say, symmetric? So on the let's say supply side, we were very much the TI national chapter and our partners, the co-founders, which are all civil society organizations, we were actively engaged in promoting the public advocacy work and actually direct lobbying also for adoption of the first Freedom of Information or Access to Information Act. In Mongolia, it's called Law on Information Transparency and Right to Access Information, which was finally adopted by our national parliament in 2011 after many years of work. From the demand side, again, the Transparency International national chapter is kind of supporting the coalition building among the civil society organizations which are working in this field, in the field of right to information and freedom of information, and also the individual active citizens, because all know that at present, especially the social media become a very forceful, let's say, mechanism for engaged and interested citizens also to push forward the right to information, which was exemplified very much at today's morning session, and basically to have to enable the citizens and public to have a better access to public information, especially information which directly affects the rights and interests of the citizens. So the TI has been innovating many research diagnostics, because we need to have a kind of also base way to start, to see where the baseline, I mean, where the ground reality in terms of either the existence or the practice of the right to information and the access to, and whether the access to information is really there or not. So we are using the scorecards in depicting or analyzing the existing conditions, basically the gap, whether there's a gap between policy or implementation, or there's a gap between non-existent policy and the demand for policy making, and also with regard whether there's a legal and regulatory framework and whether it's really being implemented by the government agencies. So for many years, we are now using the cleanest methodology, for example. Cleanest in Latin means ray of light. So it was started in our national chapter, chapters in Latin America, but then successfully also duplicated in Africa and also in the Central Eastern Europe to assess the transparency of the political parties in terms of their funding, financing, and the spending. Because many use also the taxpayers' money, the government budget, you know, both during the election campaign, but also the post-election scenario. Also, the Transparency International has been using the combined method, you know, of both the kind of public surveys, but also in-depth interviews and focus group discussions, which, for example, we were using in Mongolia since December through this month on the first ever major kind of a comprehensive political party financing survey. Also, I think this is the diagnostics are especially good in terms of preparing for the policy advocacy, because the government or political institution do not buy just, you know, the let's say public opinion. They would always ask for, okay, do you have a really, I mean, the statistics, you know, kind of the scientifically done data. So this is both to convince the political institutions, including the legislatures, parties, and other national election commissions and other institutions, but also enlightening the people, you know, in terms of what's really happening. You know, the public surveys are not just, I mean, enough. So here it's also it's a kind of a both on the demand and supply side, because we realized whenever it comes to actual implementation and enforcement of the right to information, the problem lies not only, let's say, the lack of awareness among the people about their right, but also lack of awareness and knowledge of their duties and responsibilities on the part of the government officials in order to enable the citizens to exercise their right. So what on the policy advocacy side? So as I said, we are doing both combination of the public survey, I mean, kind of what's the public attitude and their knowledge and let's say their awareness about the right to information, especially in the case of taking the case of the political party financing, because we believe this is one of the root causes of corruption in Mongolia, but also on the other hand using the cleanest, I mean the more, let's say, scientific methodology with a really hard-on data. Second, so through this we are assessing actually the political parties' existing kind of practice with financing of compliance, you know, their funding compliance with the law on information transparency, but also there have been a new law approved in Mongolia after also quite, I mean, let's say, lobbying and public advocacy work by the concerned civil society organizations, what we call law on glass accounts. Glass account meaning from this year onwards, all publicly funded institutions, including, you know, all the central local government agencies, as well as even state-owned or enterprises, they are required by the law to make public, transparent their financial transactions above any transaction above, okay, in US dollars will be above maybe, let's say, around 3,000 US dollars. So also, I think this will help also we are public advocacy in terms of making the political parties as key, let's say, actors in the government to be more accountable to the public, you know. So we selected 13 major political parties out of total 25. And also we believe that what the Transparency International's both global and regional experience shown is that the TI has more than 100 actually national chapters around the world, and more than 20 in the making. And in this region, only North Korea and Laos doesn't have national chapters. So what our practice has shown that the more transparent and the political party funding is, that they get also more wider public support in generally in the elections. So now my let's say almost last point on the accountability mechanism. We are devising also. I mean, just everyone knows just having a beautiful, let's say, legal and regulatory framework is not enough. There should be implementation, but how do you assess whether that your right to information and freedom of expression is actually happening? Whether the citizens are really, I mean, able to exercise this right. So the TI is partnering with its civil society organizations to monitor and build the coalitions, including, for example, the existing or new intergovernmental initiatives like the Open Government Partnership. We also believe that we need to engage also both the political parties and the government, let's say, institutions, but also we need to have, let's say, more vibrant civil society organizations which are really working on this. And my last point is on the, yesterday we discussed that, I think Anselma mentioned that the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, going to be replaced by the Sustainable Development Goals. So the Mongolia was one of the, I think, 2 or 3 countries in the world which adopted and have been implementing the 9th additional goal on governance. And one of its target goals was actually to ensure freedom of media and access to information. So even the current situation shows that just MDGs 15 years is not enough. There's a long way to go, but it's a kind of a building block approach, and we should work on both our successes, but as well as on the failures, the lessons learned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George, for this presentation. With a movement which starts with the legislation in the year 2011, moving on to also emphasizing coalition building, and then moving on to the area particularly of making political parties accountable in terms of right to information is a very strong Mongolian experience that I'm sure my friend from India here would be eyeing, because he's losing his battle here and trying to go to Bangladesh to see whether the battle can continue, but Mongolia is doing it. And Mongolia for us is a country which we rarely go to because of your extreme weather, but there is so much to learn from Mongolia for the rest of Asia that we have always seen in different parts of the world. Thank you very much. We will now move to Nepal. We have Nirmala Sharma, the president of the Forum for Women Journalists in Nepal, who will be the next speaker. She is a professional media person and a women's rights activist. She has been actively involved in advocating for women's rights through journalism for the last 22 years. 22 years is behind that person there. She is currently the president of the Sancharika Samuha, a forum of women journalists in Nepal. She is also the general secretary of the South Asian Free Media Association, SAFMA, Nepal chapter, and ever since its establishment, she has been advocating for democracy and freedom in South Asia. She is also the co-producer, presenter of Samakon, a weekly television talk show against gender-based violence, broadcast through Kantipur television, a national level television in Nepal. So we have before us a TV star. Nirmala.
Thank you so much. By professionally, I am journalist, so the RTI is not my subject, but being a journalist, I am using most of the journalists in Nepal, they are using RTI, but not general people. So in Nepal, it is very easy. Our Indian colleague already told about how to use in RTI in India, and our Mongolian friend also, he has mentioned about how we are using the RTI. Nepal is a very small country, you know about Nepal, and then we are so young in democracy, and we are practicing right to information only 8 years, but we have law, but we are not using RTI in Nepal. And this is constitutional right. RTI is constitutional right. In constitution, interim constitution mention every people, every citizen shall have freedom of opinion and expression. And by this constitution, and we have made law in 2007, this is Law of the Right to Information Act. Yes, next one. Yeah, RTI is an important tool for exercising freedom of expression. I have already told we have freedom of expression, but most of the general people, they are not using only freedom of expression, but they are not taking the information from the government, from the private sector. Only in Nepal, most of the people know that the right to information means it's a right of the journalist. Even most of the people, they don't know about the right to information. Even urban area, in most of the women, they don't know how to use this right RTI in their own in life, in their own even other sector also, they are not using. Even urban area, most of the people, they are not using RTI. Right to information means every citizen shall have the right to information, but even access to information held in a public body. And then Right to Information Act, Nepal 2007, it has mentioned. Public body means most of the public body, following body, like this body under the constitution and established by an act. And a body formed by the government of Nepal, an institution or foundation established by the law and public service, and a political party, organization registered under the prevailing law. But most of the political party, even private sector institution, they are not giving information to public. But our law mentioned that every sector, they should use the information, but they still not practicing at all. What is RTI in our according to our law? It means the right to ask for and obtain the information of public information held in public body. This term shall be include the right to study and observation of any written document and material held in public body or proceeding of the such public body. Likewise, NGO, INGO, and private sector and political party and government body, all should be, they should be hire the information officer, and they should give the information. I think this is a quarterly basis, but they are not practicing. Still now, most of the organization, even public body, they are not practicing this right to information to the public. Public body means the following body, like I have all told, yes. Even non-government, I already told, non-government organization, institution operated by the obtaining money, directly government or not. Even INGO, even NGO, they are not using the government money, but they are using the other source of information, but they should be accountable to the public. What kind of information can use? Any written document, material or information related to the function, proceeding the decision of the public importance made by the public body. A kind of the scripted document. Also include any audio-visual material collected and updated through the mechanical medium or that printed or retrieved. And we have this kind of provision. And if we have National Information Commission, it has already formed 2008, and then there is body. If government body or public body, they don't want to give information, they can complain to Information Commission. But if this information officer does not provide the information, deny to provide information sometimes partially or not fully, they can complain first of all that same office, and if they deny to information, and they should complain to Information Commission also. Yeah. What are the loophole of the information RTI in Nepal? I have already told. Most of we have law, and I think it is very wide law that rather than India and other country, because most of the RTI they are using only government's information, and only government should be accountable. But in our country, every sector, in private sector, NGO sector, all sectors should accountable to the public. But in practice, we are not using, even other people, public people also, they are not using their rights, and even who are in accountable people, but they are not practicing the RTI in their own institution. That is the loophole of our in our country. And then other is political party, they are not responsible to the people, and they make law, but they are not practicing that law, even their own political party or institution.